I'll feed anybody, but I'm not for everybody. My name is Chef Derek Green, and I find people that have turned their life's experiences into ingredients they use to feed others. We're redefining soul food. These people have turned their adversities into their advantages. This is the Sauce of Life show, and let's go. Sean Abbananto, welcome. No, I said your name. I said Abbananto. Say your name the right way, brother. Abbananto.
So it's either Abba, like Abba from the Bible, or Abba, like the music group. Either one is right. And then Nan, like nanny, and then toe, like on your foot. Abbananto or Abbananto. Either one of those is correct.
Sean Abbananto, the man, the myth, and the legend. Brother, I appreciate you joining the podcast today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the world?
Man, first of all, before I even say anything, brother, thank you for having me on. It's such a privilege just to come spend some time with you. I'm so proud of you. You are tearing it up. Every time I talk to you, you're somewhere else because doors are opening up and you're just finding more and more ways to touch lives. So very proud of you and excited to be on with you today. Yeah, man, I grew up in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. It's where I'm at today. Moved away for 14 years, lived in New York and LA, and then ended up back here in 2002. And that's just such a small slice of my journey. Went through hell and back as a kid. Just crazy life growing up, and somehow, some way, found myself committing to the life of a speaker when I thought that was the most silliest thing ever. And that was in 1998. So for the last 26, 27 years, I've been traveling, speaking, coaching, and just helping people really try to figure out how to get the shaky out of their life, become more solid in terms of how they live their life. If they're a business owner, same thing, go from shaky to solid. And, been doing that for a long time now and love every minute of it.
Man, that was a lot you packed into there, brother. Good job. First of all, thank you. I receive your words and I appreciate you. I am traveling. God is blessing me to be able to live the life that I've desired to live and to live in my dream. So as you know, I travel and in an attempt to help other people find their purpose and live in their purpose or walk in their dream, walk in alignment with their assignment, as Tim Story says. You said that you went through hell and back as a kid. This show, The Sauce of Life, is truly about people that have taken their life's experiences and turned those into ingredients that they use to feed others. So,
so good.
Tell me about that as a kid.
Wow, man. So, when life started out for me, it was pretty special. I was the firstborn to my mom and dad, firstborn son, right? So that was pretty cool. I was the firstborn grandson on my dad's side, on the Italian side. So obviously I was spoiled pretty bad. But at the age of 5, something shifted. Now, I was a kid that was pretty adventurous. I mean, I tell a story from stage about, being 5 years old and John Wayne's my hero and I'm out there chasing cows through a field, just not going to give up until I catch one. I was pretty wild as a kid. But then at the age of 5, things started to shift in my world. My parents divorced, and that rocked me because I was like, wait a minute, this isn't what I see on television. Families stay together and they love each other and, they laugh together. And all of a sudden, dad's gone and mom's a single mom, working 2 jobs, putting herself through school. Life became a little shaky. And then a year after that, I got molested by a babysitter. It happened twice, ages 6 and 9. So my world just got rocked, dude, between 5 and 10. And it just put me in a place of fight or flight. It put me in a place of shutting down, isolating, being reactionary in life. And I stayed there until the age of 30.
Man, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing things that you're sharing. That's something that we actually have in common, being molested. I was raped as well as being molested by family members. So I can understand and relate to the violations, both from men and women, and what that can do to your trust. Somehow you went through those situations and you said that it was, life was shaky for a while, but you've used that as fuel now, and you've been standing on stage since 1998. Tell me how that whole process went. How did you go from potentially allowing this to what, arguably destroys a lot of lives?
Yeah.
Whether you're talking about the divorce, the separation, the obvious fighting that you probably observed between your parents, the molestation, the dealing with self-worth and self-value, all these various things. So let's unpack some of that for us.
Yeah, man. I mean, bring a lunch, right? So, you understand better than most. And what a lot of people don't understand is 1 out of 3 women are sexually violated in some way, shape, or form, they maybe have heard that stat. What most people have not heard is that 1 in 6 men have experienced the same thing, but men stay much more quiet than women. And women, the majority of them stay quiet as well, because we're so afraid of being labeled. We're so afraid that those scars will, it just will change how people see us or view us. And so for me, I just kept quiet. I didn't tell anybody for 25 years. So I went all through my teens, all through my 20s. And I'm here to tell you, man, it was a rough life, because when you don't have the tools or the skills to navigate trauma, what you do is you're just surviving, and you're trying to figure out ways to patch the holes in your heart, the holes in your soul, the confusion in your mind. And so for me, it was never about, I was never anyone that looked at anything that you could ingest as a way to medicate my pain. So drinking was never a thing. Drugs was never a thing for me. But because I had been molested, and the definition of intimacy and love, and even, just like cuddling, all of that had been blown out of the water. A lot of confusion there, a lot of fog, as I like to say. So I was just stumbling and bumbling through life, very shaky. So I looked to people and pornography to feel the pain. And the more that I tried to heal my pain through pornography and sleeping around with girls and chasing girls all the time, the larger the wound grew. And it just continued to grow and grow and grow. And I'm sure people change for one of two reasons: because the pain becomes so great that it forces them to change, or they gain enough knowledge that it just makes no sense to stay where they're at a second longer. And for me, it was the first one. Like I said, I'd lived this way in the dark for 25 years, just hurting, like I said, using women and pornography to try to, heal my pain. I found myself in a country bar in Glendale, California, drinking a beer, sitting up in a dark corner of a nightclub. And there were hundreds of people there dancing, having a good time. And I was up there sitting in a corner, absolutely miserable. Now, the crazy thing is, the world, or people out there in the world, will tell you, well, you had all the things that, a lot of people say, well, if you're going to be successful, you have to make money. I was making money. I had a nice car. I had nice clothes. I had a pretty girlfriend. I had all the stuff, but I was miserable. I was laughing on the outside, dying on the inside. I had no hope, no vision, no passion for my life. And so I like to say it this way: the bling bling is not the thing. And so as I sat there that night, I thought to myself, I've tried everything but God. And so I sat there, and here I am sitting in a club having a conversation with God, because God will show up where you need him. All you got to do is ask. He says, call to me and I'll answer you, right? And so I did, and we had a little conversation in the club, and I just said, hey, I'm going to give you another shot because nothing else has worked. And so I made a choice right there in that moment that things were going to change. And as I've said for many, many years, your choices affect your chances in life. Yesterday's choices are today's realities. And for me in that moment, yesterday's choices were a horrible reality. But the beautiful part about choices is that today's choices become tomorrow's realities. And so I started choosing differently that night, and continued to choose differently as the days, weeks, and months, clicked away. Got into a church, got rid of some friends that were pulling me back into, the club lifestyle. Sometimes you got to clean house a little bit.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
some people said to me, well, that was mean to cut your friends off. Well, it was to them, but it wasn't to me, and they got over it. Trust me, I had conversations with them years later. But the point was, we have one life to live, and we have to protect that life. Sometimes when we don't know how to protect ourselves, we have to do everything we can to create boundaries that allow us to heal and grow into the greatness that God has placed within us. And so that began my process, this process that I believe that we all need to embrace, of growing into the greatness within us. God created us in his image. His very DNA is inside of us. But we have to embrace the process of growing into that.
Man, beautiful. I can tell you that one of the things I've always appreciated about you is your vulnerability, your authenticity. And there are not many people that can step on stage and say, I was molested, or to say that as a result of being molested, I struggled with feeling worthy of love or attachment. There are not many people that can say I struggled with porn addiction or whatever their vice was that resulted from that. I want to make sure that I know you know this, but I want to make sure listeners also know, first of all, that when people like us step on stage and share these stories, it can be very impactful and very powerful for people that have been what they feel dealing with these childhood traumas for so long and packing them away and putting them on a shelf and not thinking about it. But in my time as a military policeman dealing with suicide intervention specifically and sexual assault victim advocacy, often when I would talk to victims of sexual assault, whether male or female, they would talk about how they had been violated as a child, and being violated as a child led them to a life of promiscuity or risky behaviors. I know I'm included in that myself, for sure. But there's a power that comes, again, from people like Pastor Sean stepping on stage, sharing his story, letting men and women know that they're not alone in what they've gone through. And there's a way out of it. There is a way out of it. Now, I heard you say that you made a choice. You chose in that club that night to give God another chance. It won't be religion for everybody or spirituality for everybody, but it all boils down to a choice. So what helped you make that choice? And then how has that choice changed your life and the lives of the people around you? The sauce of life. How did you turn those ingredients from your past into your sauce of life?
Yeah, such a great question and some really great, powerful points. I think for me, as I was saying earlier, my pain grew to the point where it forced me to do something, right? I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. A lot of people have heard that before. And also, a lot of people have heard the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over and expecting a different result. So for me, I was like, the pain was so great. I've got to do something. I can't stay where I'm at. So for me, was very thankful that I did have a faith-based childhood. I did grow up in the church. I said up until the age of 5, my papa was a preacher. I went to vacation Bible school and those things. So I had that foundation. And the word says, if you raise up a child in the way they should go, they will return to it if need be. So that was an easy choice for me. But I think for someone that maybe they don't have a particular faith walk or don't consider themselves, say, spiritual, what I would encourage them to understand is that when these things happen and we don't know how to recover for them, you mentioned a very interesting word. You used the word power, how we can be impactful and powerful for people to hear our stories. Well, the thing that I realized and discovered is that my power is what was missing. It had taken the power from me. My mother always called me her sunshine when I would walk into the room. She says, oh, you just light up the room when you come in the room. You want to make everybody happy and all of that. And so when I told my mother about what had happened, she started to cry. And I said, Mom, I'm okay. And she says, oh, I'm not crying because of that. And I said, you didn't do anything wrong. And she says, I'm not crying because of that. I said, well, why are you crying? And she reminded me, I've always called you my sunshine. And she said, at some point around the age of 6, a large percentage of that went away. And I never knew why.
Wow.
I never knew why you weren't shining like you were before. And she said, and baby, it's back. It's back. And so she was crying tears of joy because that shining ability, right? The shaky had become solid again. The shining had come back because the power had come back. And I discovered this when the first time I ever mentioned this publicly, it was at a singles night at church, and they had blended both singles groups. There was over 300 people there. And the pastor opened up the microphone. He says, if you feel like you want to say something from God to everybody, just come up here and share for 1 to 2 minutes. Well, I went up, believe it or not, to talk about something completely different. And when I opened my mouth, what came out was, at the age of 6, this happened to me. And I was stunned that I said it. I was shocked. I was afraid people would judge me or think weird things about me. At the time, I coached little kids basketball, 10 and 11-year-old boys and girls basketball. And I was afraid they were going to take me away from coaching because there are stats that show that such a high percentage of people that go through what we went through will turn around and do that to someone else. I had all this fear that welled up within me over the next few minutes as I sat back down in my chair. Just what have I done to my life? And then the pastor walked up to me after service and he said, I just want to thank you for sharing your story. He said, you don't know everybody's story in this room, but I do. And what you don't realize is you put a key in about 50 doors and unlock them tonight.
Yes.
And that's the first moment I realized that my personal power that had been taken away was now coming back. And the more that I mentioned it, the more that I talked about it, every time I would say something about it to someone, I felt more of that power coming back, more of it coming back. And so I started to go and just getting me back. And then, like you said, the ingredients that creates the sauce of life is that now that I share it publicly so easily from the stage, I can't tell you, I have lost count. The number of times people have come up to me after I'm done speaking. They like to come up and say hi or thank you. And that I'll get a hug or a handshake, and they will lean in where it's only me and them that can hear. And they'll whisper in my ear, it happened to me too, and I've never told anyone. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for keeping it real and raw, because I'm comfortable, based on what I saw you do, to tell someone for the first time. And I mean, that's been men, women, it's been people in their 20s, all the way up to this sweet lady who had to be 75 or older. And she said, I've never told a soul. So what you start to understand is that the wound went through a healing process. And what it left was a scar. Anytime a wound heals, for the most part, when it's that big, they're always going to be a scar. But scars, a lot of times we see them as something that's ugly and we want to cover them up, whether it's a physical scar, like we might wear long sleeves because we have scars. If it's an emotional scar, we try to cover it up. We try to act a certain way, put on a mask, pretend we're something that we're not. What I like to share with people is that scars are a sign of healing. They mean you made it, right? They give people hope. So we have to become people that are say, look, I'm willing to tell my story and show my scars so that I can give other people hope. And I think just that knowledge, that little bit of knowledge and wisdom that hit me, was what drove me forward with a passion to say, I don't care what people think. I'm going to tell my story and I'm going to show my scars, and we're going to let people know they're not alone. They can make it too. And all they have to do is make it one choice to say, I need life to turn around. And like I said, for me, it was initially a faith-based choice that turned into reading books all the time, listening to inspirational speakers, personal development speakers, faith-based speakers. I just started listening to all kinds of speakers and just pouring good stuff into me. You know, a crazy stat, brother, is that on average, over 85% of people that graduate high school never read another book again. And then they're wondering, isn't that wild? And then they're wondering, like, they get into their 20s and they get a job and a relationship and a mortgage, and all of a sudden they're like, I'm struggling, I can't figure it out, because you didn't keep growing. and then you add some kind of, you know, drama and trauma on top of that, and no wonder people are struggling.
You know, I want to add to that, bro. You said something that's key there. You said so many things there, but I want to go back to something. First of all, when you're talking about scars, when I'm coaching and mentoring people, I let them know that the only way you can observe a scar, first of all, is to know that you had a wound there and that thing hurt, right? So you have to first know that there's a wound there. And Dr. Wayne Dyer has a quote that says, it's never the snake bite that kills you. It's always the venom left coursing through your veins. So I can see how a person arrives at age 30, age 40, age 50, having never been able to manage their finances, never been able to be successful in a relationship for any given amount of time, having certain behaviors that are repeated and repeatedly told to them in the relationship. You're acting like a child. Why don't you grow up? All these various things, or they don't know why they're promiscuous or why they have the behaviors, why they suffer with anxieties or depressions. And it's not until they realize there's a wound that you've never addressed over there, and that thing never scabbed over. You think it scabbed over. You think you placed it away, but that thing has just been hemorrhaging this whole time, just oozing. You have to go back, acknowledge that it's there, and apply the proper medicine to it, so to speak, so that you can watch the scab. And then you have those battle wounds. In the military, man, I remember this guy's name was Sean McKenna. If he ever sees this, he had a scar across his jaw.
Wow.
And you'd ask him, right? I was a young 18-year-old soldier and he was in his 30s, but you'd ask him, and every time, like, the war story would change and always get added more details in it, right? And you'd think that this guy grabbed a grenade and a bayonet and went and charged the Iraqi army by himself, beating people over the head with a tank turret or something. you know, but he was able to show that battle scar. And here you are standing on stage, putting your scar out there for everybody, letting people know I healed it. Don't feel bad for me. This happened and I healed it. And now I use that to pour back into others. And something else that you said was about you getting up and sharing and how that opened doors for at least 50 people in that room. When people come up and they say, me too, it happened to me too, or they pull you to the side, what does that do for you, man? When you realize that you being honest and open, having regained your power, what does it do for you to realize the impact that you're having on people?
Yeah, once again, another great question. You know, I think for me, it makes me very thankful and very grateful that I walk my life with a God that never gave up on me. That no matter how much I tried to run and medicate my pain and do all kinds of crazy stuff, that continued to beat me up even worse, right? I mean, the scars that were given to me by other people, I'll be honest with you, those were horrible. But I think sometimes the battle I had over my self-worth, over my own decisions and things I did that I chose, right? I mean, it's one thing to forgive someone else for what they did to us, but to be able to forgive ourselves, that's even more powerful and more difficult to do. But it makes me thankful and grateful that I never gave up, you know, that the blood, the sweat, and the tears was totally worth it. Every second that I stayed in the process, the moments that I said, I'm tired of this process, I'm going to quit. And then I got right back in the process because I couldn't stay away from it. You know, I've had these moments. One of my favorite moments to share about is I had been in the state of Illinois for a couple of years, speaking a lot. About every 3 months, someone was bringing me in. I would spend a week or two speaking there. And so I get this email late at night one night. I used to check my emails late at night, about 10:30, and I'm going through my email, and this email pops in my inbox. It's from a woman named Pat. And she said, hey, Sean, you won't know me because we never met, so you won't remember me, but I heard you speak 2 years ago. I had a friend that had heard you and drugged me to your meeting. And I remember thinking, when I read that, I was like, she drugged you. I was like, well, you didn't want to come? I was like, what? So I was like, it's not starting off real well. But she said, so I decided to go. And she said, what you don't know about me is up until that point, that night, I had tried to kill myself 5 times.
Wow.
And obviously, I wasn't very good at it. Now, the fact that she used some humor there showed me that there had come a shift. And she said, there was some things you said that night that showed me that life was worth living. So I just want you to know, I left that night, and for the next year, all I did was work on myself. I just worked on myself and healed and grew, and I just kept working on myself for the next year. And then she says, and then for the last year, this second year, I've been traveling the state of Illinois, sharing with women's groups that suicide is never the answer. And man, I'm telling you, I had tears just streaming down my face, dripping off onto my desk, because I just thought, God, if you could use me to encourage someone not to take their life, and then not only that, but to continue the healing process until they had the scar that they could go show and tell their story to help others, man, just thank you for allowing me to play a very small part in their very big life. So for me, 2 things. One is I'm very grateful that he never gave up on me. I may not be where I want to be, but thank God I'm not where I used to be, right? And so for me, I'm very grateful. The other thing is it fires me up. It's what gets me up every day and gets me fired up. Even those days where we don't want to get up, we're tired. Maybe we just got in on a late night before, late flight or whatever, and you wake up and you're physically tired. But then that drive, that passion, that vision, that calling will hit me, and I'll start to remember some of these people that I've had the privilege of interacting with, and I start getting fired up because I'm like, okay, God, let's go again. I'm still here. I'm still breathing. There's other people to help. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And so it fires me up as well. And I just can't wait, because sometimes it's a planned interaction, right? You and I have an event coming up November 8th and 9th. That's a planned interaction we will have with people. But then there's those times where you're at the gym, at the grocery store, getting your hair cut, and there's just a moment that you have with someone, and you never know where that's going to lead. So those are the things that get me fired up about life. I've been privileged and blessed to just have so many of these interactions and to see people walk away with hope. That's a powerful thing. That's a really powerful thing.
Man, I've been blessed to watch you in your fired up state and see how you light up a room and you actually bring light to others. And what you said there is very important. I personally have a philosophy or a belief that I don't know. I asked myself this as a teenager. I remember it distinctly asking if God had me live my entire life to help one person, but I never know who that person is that I helped. It's that I said something or I did something, but I'll never know how I helped them. Would my life be worth living? I don't know if I'll inspire the next Maya Angelou or the next Sean Abbananto or the next Malcolm, whoever it is, right? You don't know the impact that you have, but I can tell you, man, from being in a room with you, when you open up and start sharing stuff, you inspire others. Now, there may be people that come to me and say, Derek, don't share this, and then they start talking. Sean shared this, right? I remember sitting in Newport Beach in front of the cafe. You shared some stuff and you don't know who other ears were around that listened. And I won't violate that trust. But I'm telling you, bro, that just living your life the way that you do light up when you start talking about these things. And that light sheds light on the pain of others and allows them to begin processing through stuff. So I appreciate you for that.
Man, thank you for saying that, dude. Those are some very kind words. And you said something that's key, and it really is going to take me into a little deeper bit of what I like to teach people and what I've experienced in my life. You said when you speak or when you go into a room, you said you shine bright. And so I want to talk a little bit about something that was given to me back in 1998 by God. He told me I was at home reading my Bible, studying, trying to get better for me. And he said, I want you to go to a library. Interrupted me. This little thought hit me. Go to a library. I'm like, why would I go to a library? That seems stupid. I didn't even like libraries in school. Why would I go to? I don't even know where one's at. So I figured out where one was at, drove down there. I was mad at God. I'm like, here I am trying to read the Word of God, right? And you're telling me go to a library and study about diamonds. I'm like, why do you want me to go get a book on diamonds and read up about diamonds? Then I remember thinking, oh, maybe I'm supposed to study diamonds because he's going to give me that wife I've been waiting on, right? So I go to the lady in the library, and she points me to the row. I get 2 or 3 books on diamonds. I plop down at the table, and I start reading. And what I discovered within just a few moments, I mean, it came quick, is that our life of embracing the process of growing into the greatness within us, our life of healing trauma, and getting back our power, it is so similar and parallel to what coal or carbon goes through to become a diamond. This process that has to be embraced. And I'm telling you, I mean, anybody that had science class back in school, remember that there are 3 elements, right, that coal has to go through to become a diamond. You probably could just spit 1 or 2 out right now, right? So we have
fire. Go ahead. Sorry.
You said 2 of them right there: pressure, right? Heat, and a whole lot of time. So heat, pressure, and a whole lot of time. So the only way that we can get our shine back is to embrace all of those elements. So let me talk about each one for a brief moment if we have time. So
please.
Heat brings refining. It brings purifying. There's so many things that have entered into our life through others' choices or our own choices that those have to be purified and refined out of us. And heat does that. Heat will burn it out of you, right? It'll burn it away from you. Gold is liquefied until the impurities rise to the top, and then they remove the impurities, and then they start to turn that gold into various things when it cools off. So the heat that I believe that God brings into our life, or maybe it's just a really good book. I'm going to Tony Robbins in November. He's going to bring a lot of heat for Micah and I, my wife. We're going to go through his 4-day seminar. We're going to get heated up, get a lot of pressure. So he's going to do some refining and purifying, but you have to embrace that purifying and refining that happens through mentors and coaches and materials and the word and prayer and all these various things that will bring the heat to your life. You have to embrace the heat and allow that purifying to take place. The second element is pressure. Where heat purifies, pressure solidifies. That's what takes us from soft and, oh, that hurt too much, and man, pressure, come on, it starts pushing and pushing until you go from shaky to solid, and now you are rock solid, and you are, the word diamond comes from the Greek word adamas. It means unconquerable. So when you get that kind of solid, because you've embraced the pressure, things can't penetrate to your heart in a way where they injure you. You learn how to navigate situations with people and life in a way where it may ding you a little bit, it may chip you a little bit, but it won't damage you and destroy you like it might have in the past. So heat purifies, pressure solidifies, and time qualifies. When you've embraced this process over time and you've allowed the heat and the pressure to do their thing, then what you'll see is the growth that comes out of that allows you to not only be discovered as diamonds are, but then shaped and polished and positioned. And that's when the light can be reflected to help other people. A diamond is valuable when it's first discovered, but it has to be shaped. It has to be cut. The facets have to be cut so that light will actually reflect and not bounce off. And that's a process that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And you can't, just choose who you want to cut you and how you want to be cut, because when you study this out, you'll see that diamonds are the hardest natural substance on earth. They have to be cut and polished by another diamond. So that's why when we look at scripture like iron sharpen iron, and we talk about, who you're going to choose as a coach or a mentor, you better choose someone that's walked out the process before, because they're the only people that are capable of cutting and polishing you to a point where then you can shine the way you were designed to. Shine bright like a diamond. Come on, they wrote a song about it. Come on.
Let's go.
So that for me is this, what I call the diamond mentality. The diamond mentality. It's embracing that process of heat, pressure, and time that will grow you into the greatness within you. You were created to be a diamond, not a chunk of coal that's dirty and invites other dirty to come hang out. No. We got to rise above it. We got to go through a purification process so that we change how we think, which changes what we think, which helps our choices, right? First the thoughts shift, then the words shift, then the choices and the actions change, right? And then everything starts to change. That's the heat pressure. It happens over time. And then what you'll see is that you'll start stacking up these moments of success because you've learned how to win the moments. A lot of people, they start out, they go, I want to have a great day. And then they'll have a bad moment about 8 a.m. and they'll be like, man, I done blew the whole day.
Right.
And that's their mindset. Right. So when I coach people all the time, I'm talking about, man, we got to win these moments. We got to stack these moments up. And the more that you embrace the diamond mentality, you learn and discover how to do exactly that.
Brother.
Because the most powerful truth, hang on, one more thing. The most powerful truth about the diamond mentality is this. You embrace all that, you will never, ever, ever obtain perfection. Because there is no perfect diamond. And what makes a diamond believable and authentic is the flaws that it gained during the process. The scars, if you will.
This guy. Bro, you are good. You are great. The only thing that I feel you hit it on the head right there. The only thing more difficult to shape than a diamond is the human paradigm. You have to change the way you think. You are going to be sharing a stage called the Middle Dash. Please close us out. Tell us about, well, no, don't close it out yet because I have another question for you, but tell us about the Middle Dash. Where can we find you? Where can we see you? Where are your social media handles, all of this stuff?
Yeah, so just you'll have my name as part of you'll either have it on the screen or in the content below. And that's what all my social media is: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. All that's just my name, Sean Abbananto. And that's the easiest way to find me. SeanAbbananto.com is my website. So it's just, I make it nice and easy, except nobody can spell my last name. But anyway, they'll figure it out. But the Middle Dash, I'm super excited about. I've got some great friends around the world. And so to be able to partner with friends and do events that change lives, it's my favorite thing to do. That's why I joined the John Maxwell team back in 2012 when they asked me to. That's why I joined World Shakers when Tim Story asked me to. Because for me, it's about those relationships, really discovering other people that think like we do, that say, man, all we want to do is pour our lives out and help others. So, when you and I started talking and Chris and Zena, we said, hey, man, we got a powerful little group. Let's put together an event that helps people move past being stuck in the past, right? The COVID and the pandemic and all that, Jack. So many people's mindsets up and they're kind of stuck pre-COVID or in COVID, even though it's been 4 years ago now. Or the people that are constantly looking towards the future. I'm constantly looking towards the future. So I'll never forget that first discussion. We're like, let's create an event where we really help people learn how to stay focused on what's happening right now in my life. What's taking place right now in my life. It's about not only winning those moments, but just being present. So many times in today's world, when we have technology that can keep us up 24/7, 365, we don't really have a high level of awareness of moments and what we're experiencing. So we're going to take 2 full days and we're going to pour into people right here in Oklahoma City. And I can't wait. We've got some powerful speakers that are going to be there. I've got some folks locally that friends of mine that are going to come. Trey Kennard, he's a world champion motocross racer. His story from trauma to triumph is incredible. We've got, Lauren Vaughn is speaking. Her and her husband give away over 50% of their income. They talk about irrational generosity. We got Glenn Morshower, who doesn't love Glenn? They don't know him by name, but they'll know him by face. Very famous actor, done a million things. All I know, he was on my favorite show, 24. So he doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to be Jack Bauer when he shows up. I'm going to run around the building, rolling around and stuff, and that'll probably freak him out, but it'll be all right. No, just some powerful people, powerful 2 days. I would encourage people to come hang out with you and me, and man, life will never be the same.
Brother, I appreciate that. And the Middle Dash will be an ongoing event. So this first one is on November 8th and 9th, just to clarify if anybody didn't hear. The last question I have for you, Sean, to close us out is, if this were the last time that you and I spoke, what is it that you would want me to walk away with? What message would you want me to walk away with?
Okay, I got it already. You matter. You matter. Not only to me, but you matter to the world. Because the average person will influence 10,000 people in their lifetime. The average person. But you're not average because you're watching this. You made a choice to go above and beyond and watch a podcast, which shows me you're not average. So if the average person will influence 10,000 people or more, then how many can you potentially touch and influence in your lifetime? So the first thing you need to make a truth in your heart and mind is that you matter, because so many of us went decades and no one ever shared that with us. And we look in the mirror and we don't believe it. So I need you to believe that today. Start there today. Start with believing that you matter. You really do. And if you'll start there, it will become so much easier to embrace this diamond mentality process of growing into the greatness that is within you. And the only way you can ever release that greatness and influence above 10,000 people is to believe that you matter and start there. So believe that today, my friend. Embrace the process. Don't give up, and you will be shocked at how heaven and earth will move on your behalf.
My man, Sean Abbananto, thank you so very much. What a powerful message. Nothing to add to that. I appreciate you. You have a blessed day. And for anybody that's looking to connect with Sean, please look in the description below. Thank you.
Thank you, brother, man. It's just a privilege to hang out with you and just, chew it up and talk about life. I'm just so proud of you, bro. Just keep doing your thing, and let's just keep changing lives and see what happens, my man.
All right.